Well, something happened today that every family with a college-bound athlete needs to understand right now. The NCAA Division I Cabinet voted this afternoon unanimously, and they just overhauled college athletic eligibility in a way that has not been done in decades. And remember, I'm Keith Mondillo, and I've been an NCAA coach and athletic director for 31 years. I've been tracking this proposal since the day it was introduced. So tonight, I'm going to walk you through exactly what was approved, break down the official implementation details straight from the NCAA press release, tell you what this does not cover that a lot of people are going to confuse with this, and then give you my honest take on what this means for your family right now. Before we get into this, download my free college recruiting Jumpstart pack. The link is in the description below. If your athlete is still in the recruiting process, that is where you need to start. So let's get into this. So what the NCAA passed today, the Division I Cabinet unanimously approved what is being called the 5-for-5 eligibility model. It's also referred to as the age-based eligibility model. So let me give you the old rule first so you understand exactly what changed. Under the previous system, a college athlete had 5 years to compete 4 seasons of competition. That gave coaches and compliance officers one built-in year of flexibility. Coaches could sit freshmen, preserve that year, and bring it back later. That was the red shirt. Athletes could also miss time due to injury, apply for a medical hardship waiver, and potentially get that year back. All of that now is gone. Under the new age-based model, an athlete gets 5 years to compete in 5 seasons. The clock starts upon full-time college enrollment or at the beginning of the academic year after the student's 19th birthday, whichever comes first. From the moment that clock starts, it runs. There are no stop buttons, no red shirt options, no medical waivers for eligibility purposes. 5 years, 5 seasons. That's it. One important note before we move forward. The vote did happen today, Tuesday, June 23rd. The cabinet meeting does not officially conclude until tomorrow, Wednesday, June 24th. The changes are not technically final until that meeting closes, but a unanimous vote makes this a done deal. I want to give you the exact words straight from the official NCAA press release because this matters. Josh Whitman is the athletic director at the University of Illinois and the chair of the Division I Cabinet. Here's what he said, quote, "With these changes, the cabinet has taken decisive action for the benefit of student athletes and the system of NCAA Division I athletics. For many student athletes who enroll in college immediately after high school, these changes will result in the opportunity to potentially compete for an additional season in their chosen sport. For campus officials and coaches, this change provides rules that are simpler to administer and easier to predict for roster management decisions." Now, here's what NCAA President Charlie Baker said, quote, "While previous NCAA rules have served college sports well for a long time, we heard loud and clear from NCAA members and student athletes that eligibility rules should be easier to understand. This change to an age-based model eliminates aspects of the rules that have proven difficult to administer in the current litigious environment and clearly defines the exceptions available in limited circumstances, while preserving the long-intended alignment of eligibility with typical college enrollment and graduation patterns, because 98% of the 550,000 NCAA student athletes will go pro in something other than sports," end quote. Stop on that last line. 98% of college athletes will never play professionally. Charlie Baker said it out loud in the official press release. The NCAA built this rule for those kids. The implementation details. This is the section I want to spend real time on because this is where families get confused. I'm going to go through this category by category straight from the official NCAA document. I'll put this chart up on the screen so you can screenshot it. Category 1, student athletes who use their final season of competition under the previous rules during 25-26. These athletes receive no additional eligibility. Nothing changes for them. The old rules govern their career, and those rules have run their course. Category 2, current student athletes with eligibility remaining under the previous rules after the 25-26 academic year. These athletes will have both sets of rules apply to their situation. The school applies whichever model gives that individual athlete the most beneficial outcome. Old rules or new rules, whichever helps the kid most. Category 3, prospects who initially enroll full-time at any college or university during the 26-27 academic year. Same as Category 2. The school applies whichever model is most beneficial to that individual. These are the incoming freshmen this fall. Category 4, prospects who initially enroll full-time at any college or university in fall of 2027 or later. These athletes operate under the age-based model only. No choice, no comparison. These rules apply completely. If your athlete is a current junior in high school, this is the world they're going to walk into. The full rule takes effect for fall of 2027. Everything before that has a transition process built around protecting the individual athlete. So what's eliminated? I want to be direct about what's gone because this changes how coaches build rosters and how families need to think about the recruiting process. The redshirt year is eliminated. Coaches can no longer strategically sit a freshman to preserve a year of eligibility. That tool is off the table completely. Medical hardship waivers for eligibility are gone. If an athlete gets hurt and misses a season, the clock doesn't stop. There's no application process to recover that year. Sports-specific eligibility rules are eliminated. Every Division I sport now operates under the same standard. The only exceptions that still exist are for pregnancy, active duty military service, and official religious missions. And even those exceptions only apply if the athlete does not participate in any organized competition for the full duration of the exception. The NCAA Eligibility Center will administer all exceptions going forward. This is also a waiver deadline families and coaches need to know about. Any waiver requests under the previous rules based on circumstances that occurred during or before the 25-26 academic year must be submitted to the national office no later than July 31st of 2026. After that date, waivers under the old rules are no longer available. So let's not confuse this with the bill that Senator Ted Cruz is proposing, because this is critical. There's a lot of noise right now, and families are mixing two completely separate things together. What the NCAA passed today is a rule change governing eligibility only. There's a completely separate piece of legislation moving through the United States Senate called the Protect College Sports Act. It's sponsored by Senator Ted Cruz of Texas and Senator Maria Cantwell of Washington. That bill passed the Senate Commerce Committee last week by a vote of 19-9 and is now headed to the full Senate floor. The Cruz bill covers a much broader range of issues, including NIL compensation, antitrust protections for the NCAA, agent regulations, and media rights. And here's the critical difference for your family. The Cruz bill includes a one-time transfer rule. Under that legislation, an athlete would only be permitted one transfer without losing eligibility. That's a massive change from how the transfer portal works today. The NCAA rule that passed today says nothing about transfers. Zero. The transfer portal rules you know right now are completely unchanged by today's vote. These are two different things moving on two different tracks. One's an NCAA rule that passed today. One's federal legislation that has not become law. So don't mix them up. I want to give you my 2 cents and what I think this means for families. So here's my honest take. I've been doing this for 31 years, and I'm watching this just like you in real time. And I want to tell you what I see actually happening. First, this is a Division I rule only. Division II and III have not adopted it. But here's what I believe. Division II and III are almost certain going forward to have to follow through and do this. You cannot have three divisions operating under fundamentally different eligibility standards for very long. Watch for those divisions to move in this direction. It's coming, probably in this January's convention. Second, Division I roster spots in every sport are going to become harder to get. Let me give you a real example using men's basketball, because I am literally looking at an Atlantic 10 men's basketball roster right now. The program has already put up their 26-27 roster. And again, this is an Atlantic 10 men's basketball program. They have 17 players on that roster right now. 3 freshmen, 2 sophomores, 5 juniors, 7 seniors. Under the new rules, those 7 seniors are likely going to have another year of eligibility available to them if they choose to come back. So now, instead of 7 roster spots opening for new recruits, you might have 2 or 3, maybe even fewer. Now, layer on the Ted Cruz Senate bill, which is not passed yet, but it's moving forward. If a one-time transfer rule becomes law, the players already on that roster are not going anywhere. So no one's jumping to the portal if it costs them future eligibility. So those spots get even tighter. The Power Four conferences are going to lock up the top high school recruits every day of the week. That's not going to change. But the mid-major Division I programs, the ones that have historically offered good roster spots to quality high school athletes, those spots are going to shrink. The experienced portal players are going to become more valuable to those programs because they fill immediate needs. High school recruits, unfortunately, are going to get pushed further down the priority list at that level. And here's where it trickles all the way down to your family. If a high school recruit gets passed over at the division mid-major level, well, then they need a plan B. And what's that plan B? Well, Division II and III, where the recruiting process works differently and where understanding the system gives your athlete a real advantage. Parents, this is not the time to wait and see what happens. The window is not getting wider. It's getting more narrow. The families who understand the process right now are the ones who are going to position themselves and their athletes ahead of this change before everyone else does. We can talk about this for hours, but we can't. We have to move on. So, and I mentioned families. And if you're trying to navigate this right now, that's why I built the college recruiting on-ramp system. It walks you through the entire recruiting process step by step, so your athlete's not sitting on the sideline while roster spots are disappearing. The link is in the description below. And if you have not already grabbed it, go and grab my free college recruiting Jumpstart pack. Do that first. It costs you nothing, and it gets you moving in the right direction today. Remember, I'm not a recruiting service. I'm an educational organization that guides families just like yours through this unbelievably crazy recruiting process. I'm Keith Mondillo. Drop your questions in the comments. I'll do my best to answer all of them. As we know, this is changing daily. So be ready for anything that comes up. Guys, subscribe to my channel because right now, as it comes up, if I get something from the NCAA, I'll relay to you. Take care, and we'll see you in the next video.